In the dimming light of a remote village nestled between whispering forests and mist-shrouded mountains, the twilight hour ushers in more than just darkness. It heralds the reign of ancient fears and whispered tales. Here, in the fragile boundary between day and night, lies the domain of the vampire, a creature as enigmatic as it is terrifying. This entity, shrouded in the velvet cloak of night, has haunted humanity's nightmares for centuries. Yet its allure remains as captivating as its origin is elusive. This thesis, Vampires 101, is an odyssey into the heart of this darkness. It is a journey not for the faint-hearted, but for the curious soul fascinated by the intricate tapestry of history, culture, and mythology that vampires embody. We will tread softly through the corridors of time, tracing the silent whispers of the vampire's legacy across continents and ages. From the misty highlands of Eastern Europe to the remote villages of Asia, the legend of the vampire has wound its way, a sinuous thread connecting disparate cultures in a shared narrative of fear, fascination, and the unknown. In these pages, you will encounter not just tales of terror, but a reflection of humanity's deepest fears and its unquenchable thirst for understanding the mysteries that lurk in the shadows. You will meet the infamous figures whose deeds and fame have become entwined with the vampire myth, and you will explore how these tales have evolved, converging in the figure of the vampire as a mirror reflecting our own societal fears and desires. Yet as we delve into the darkness, we also seek the light of understanding. Vampires 101 is an endeavor to dissect the vampire myth, to separate the sinew of superstition from the bone of truth. It is an invitation to look beyond the fangs and the folklore, to see in the vampire's visage not just a monster of the night, but a key to unlocking the mysteries of our past, understanding the complexities of our culture, and perhaps confronting the shadows that linger in the recesses of our own souls. Prepare yourself, then, to embark on a journey that is as enlightening as it is chilling. For in the pursuit of the vampire, we may discover not just the secrets of legends long whispered in the night, but also the enduring power of stories to captivate, terrify, and enlighten across the expanse of time and human imagination. As the veil of night descends upon the world, it brings with it tales as old as time itself, tales of creatures that lurk in the shadows, preying upon the life essence of the living. The vampire, a figure both feared and revered, has carved its place into the annals of history, not as a mere mythical specter, but as a potent symbol of the unexplained and the unholy. In this chapter, we delve deep into the origins of vampire lore, embarking on a journey that begins in the ancient tombs of the Egyptian civilization and winds through the crypts of medieval Europe. We explore how the vampire, in its various forms, has served as a representation of society's deepest fears: the fear of the unknown, the fear of death, and the fear of that which is beyond human understanding. The ancient bloodline. Our journey commences in the sands of ancient Egypt, where the vampire's earliest ancestors were born in myth and legend. Entities like Sekhmet, the lioness goddess, embodied the vampiric spirit with her insatiable thirst for blood. We observe how these early myths laid the foundation for the vampire's evolution, intertwining with the cultural, religious, and societal fabric of civilizations across the millennia. The European incarnation. As we traverse the timeline, we find ourselves in medieval Europe, where the vampire myth takes on a more familiar form. Here, amidst the plagues and the darkness of the Middle Ages, the vampire emerges as a tangible representation of the populace's fears and anxieties. It is in the shrouded villages and the forsaken crossroads of Eastern Europe that the vampire legend crystallizes, giving birth to creatures like the Strigoi and the Nosferatu. The evolution of the myth. The vampire is not a static entity, but a creature that evolves with the society that breeds it. In this section, we explore how the vampire myth has been shaped and reshaped by cultural, social, and even technological changes. From the aristocratic vampires of the Victorian era to the modern, romanticized versions in contemporary media, we trace how the vampire has mirrored humanity's evolving values, fears, and desires. The vampire as a cultural mirror. In the concluding part of this chapter, We reflect on the vampire myth as a mirror reflecting society's darkest aspects. We discuss how the evolution of the vampire legend is not merely a chronological progression, but a cultural dialogue, wherein each incarnation of the vampire addresses the specific fears, moral questions, and existential doubts of its era. As we close this chapter, we understand that the vampire is more than just a creature of the night. It is a complex symbol, a repository of our deepest fears, and a testament to our perpetual quest to understand the darkness that lies both around us and within us. As the shadow of the vampire stretches across the globe, it morphs and adapts, absorbing the essence of each land it touches. This chapter delves into the intriguing dispersion of vampire myths, revealing how these tales are not confined to the cobwebbed corners of Eastern Europe, but are a global phenomenon, manifesting uniquely in various cultures and locales. Vampires of the East. Our journey begins in the East, where vampire myths take on distinct characteristics. In China, we encounter the Jiangshi, a reanimated corpse hopping through the night, driven by qi or life force. In Japan, the bloodthirsty Keppa lurks in the waterways, a stark contrast to the ethereal beauty of the Nureona. These Eastern vampires reflect a deep connection with the spiritual and natural worlds, embodying a balance between the physical and the metaphysical. The Slavic heartland. In the misty heartland of Slavic folklore, the vampire is a creature deeply woven into the fabric of the culture. Here, we explore the tales of the strigoi and moroi, entities that reflect the complex interplay of life, death, and the afterlife in Slavic belief systems. The vampire here is not just a creature of fear, but also a symbol of unresolved grievances, societal taboos, and the delicate veil between the living and the dead, the New World and beyond. As we traverse the Atlantic, we find that the New World is not devoid of its blood-drinking entities. The lore of the chupacabra in Latin America and the lougarou in the Caribbean speak of a vibrant tapestry of vampire myths, richly colored by the unique blend of indigenous, African, and European influences. These tales are a testament to the vampire myth's ability to adapt, survive, and thrive in diverse cultural landscapes, a reflection of cultural fears and values. In this section, we reflect on how local variants of vampire myths are not mere tales of terror but are deeply indicative of each culture's values, fears, and social structure. They are mirrors, reflecting the collective psyche of communities, embodying the anxieties, conflicts, and moral dilemmas of the people. As this chapter draws to a close, we are left with a profound understanding of the vampire myth as a global narrative, a story that transcends geographical boundaries and cultural barriers. It is a testament to humanity's universal fascination with the unknown, the forbidden, and the eternal dance between life and death. In the shadowy annals of vampire lore, certain figures stand out, their legacies etched into the fabric of myth and reality. This chapter delves into the lives and legends of these key figures, examining how their stories have shaped the vampire narrative and left an indelible mark on history and folklore. Vlad the Impaler, the man behind the myth. Our journey into the heart of vampire lore begins with Vlad III, known as Vlad the Impaler or Vlad Dracula. We explore the life of this 15th century Wallachian prince, whose notorious cruelty and battles against the Ottoman Empire earned him a fearsome reputation. Delving into the historical accounts and folklore, we uncover how Vlad's legacy became intertwined with the vampire mythos, inspiring Bram Stoker's iconic character and casting a long shadow over the image of the vampire. Countess Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess. Next, we turn our gaze to the enigmatic figure of Elizabeth Bathory, a Hungarian noblewoman whose name is synonymous with horror and excess. Accused of torturing and killing hundreds of young women, Bathory's legend is a chilling tale of vanity, power, and alleged bloodbaths. We examine the blend of fact and fiction in her story, exploring how her life has been mythologized and what it reveals about the fears and anxieties of her time. The literary lords, Polidori and Lefanu. In this section, we explore the literary figures who have contributed to the vampire's aristocratic image. We delve into the works of John Polidori, whose short story, The Vampire, introduced the charismatic and sophisticated vampire figure, and J. Sheridan Le Fanu, whose novella Carmilla predated and influenced Bram Stoker's Dracula. We examine how these literary works reflect the societal and cultural currents of their time and how they have shaped the evolution of the vampire myth. The vampire as a cultural icon. As we conclude this chapter, we reflect on the enduring fascination with these key figures in vampire history. We explore how their stories, whether rooted in fact or embellished by myth, have contributed to the vampire's enduring allure and how they continue to inspire new interpretations in literature, film, and popular culture. While the vampire is often seen through the lens of Western folklore and literature, its presence resonates in the myths and legends of cultures far beyond. This chapter takes you on a global journey, exploring the rich and varied tapestry of vampire-like creatures that haunt the night in different corners of the world. This exploration not only broadens our understanding of the vampire myth, but also unveils the universal themes that these creatures represent in the human psyche. The African Asenbosum and Adze. We begin in the cradle of humanity, Africa, where vampire myths take on unique and intriguing forms. In the dense forests of West Africa, the Asenbosum waits with iron teeth to ensnare unsuspecting victims, while the shape-shifting Adze of the U people preys on the life force of the community. These entities reflect the deep connection with nature and the spiritual world that characterizes African folklore. The Penanggalan of Southeast Asia. Journeying to Southeast Asia, we encounter the chilling tale of the Penanggalan, a nocturnal entity from Malaysian folklore. This creature, a detached female head with trailing organs, reflects the complex interplay of cultural taboos, spiritual beliefs, and the representation of femininity in folklore. The Penanggalan's haunting presence invites us to explore how vampire myths in this region embody deeply rooted cultural and societal anxieties. The America's legacy of blood. In the New World, vampire-like creatures reveal the rich tapestry of indigenous, African, and European influences that shape the Americas. From the bloodthirsty Camazotz of Mesoamerican mythology to the shape-shifting Sukuyan of Caribbean folklore, these entities reflect the convergence of diverse cultural narratives and the universal theme of fear and fascination with the unknown. A universal thirst. In this concluding section, we reflect on the universal themes that these diverse vampire myths represent. Across cultures, these entities embody common fears: the fear of the outsider, the fear of the unknown, and the fear of our own darker natures. The global dispersion of vampire-like myths speaks to a shared human experience, a collective narrative that transcends cultural and geographical boundaries. As we close this chapter, we gain not just an appreciation for the diversity of vampire myths worldwide, but also an insight into the universal human condition that these myths reveal. The vampire, in its many forms, serves as a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears, desires, and the eternal quest to understand the darkness that lurks in the shadows of our world. In the realm of vampire lore, one figure casts a longer shadow than any other. Count Dracula, the immortal creation of Bram Stoker. This chapter delves into the depths of Dracula, exploring its origins, its profound impact on the perception of vampires in popular culture, and its enduring legacy as a cornerstone of Gothic literature. The genesis of Dracula. We begin by exploring the life and times of Bram Stoker, unearthing the myriad influences that led to the creation of Dracula. From the folklore of Eastern Europe to the blood-curdling accounts of Vlad the Impaler, we piece together the mosaic of inspiration that Stoker drew from. We also delve into the societal anxieties of Victorian England, examining how Dracula reflected and amplified the fears of an era. Dracula, a mirror to society. In this section, we explore Dracula as a cultural artifact, a mirror reflecting the anxieties and preoccupations of the late 19th century. Themes of invasion, degeneration, and the clash between modernity and ancient superstitions are dissected, illustrating how the novel tapped into the collective consciousness of the time and left an indelible mark on the cultural psyche. The Count's immortal legacy. Dracula did not merely end with its final page. Its impact rippled through time, influencing generations of storytellers, filmmakers, and artists. We trace the evolution of the vampire archetype in the wake of Dracula, observing how Stoker's creation became the definitive template for vampire characters in the 20th and 21st centuries. From the silver screen adaptations to the modern reinterpretations in literature and media, we examine how Dracula's shadow looms large over the entire genre. Dracula in the modern psyche. As we conclude this chapter, we reflect on the enduring fascination with Dracula and what it reveals about the human condition. We discuss the timeless appeal of the character and how modern interpretations continue to resonate with audiences worldwide. Dracula, in his many incarnations, remains a potent symbol of our fears, desires, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. In the final chapter of our exploration, we venture beyond the shrouded veil of myth and legend into the realm of reality, seeking the origins and truths behind the vampire legends that have captivated humanity for centuries. This journey takes us through the corridors of history, science, and psychology, unraveling the complex tapestry of factors that gave birth to the vampire myth. Historical and societal roots. We begin by examining the historical and societal conditions that may have contributed to the emergence of vampire legends. From the misinterpretation of natural decomposition processes to the spread of contagious diseases, we uncover how ignorance and fear in the face of the unknown laid the fertile ground for the birth of these myths. We delve into the societal upheavals and crises that often accompany the rise of vampire hysteria, revealing the deep connection between societal anxiety and the proliferation of these tales. Medical explanations and misinterpretations. In this section, we explore the medical conditions and phenomena that may have been misinterpreted as signs of vampirism. From porphyria, a rare blood disorder with vampiric symptoms, to premature burial and the misinterpretation of postmortem changes, we dissect the medical mysteries that fueled the vampire legends. We also examine how advances in medical science have helped demystify these conditions, separating superstition from reality. Psychological underpinnings. The vampire myth is not only a product of historical and medical misconceptions, but also a reflection of deep psychological undercurrents. We probe into the psychological theories that explain the enduring allure of vampires, from the representation of repressed desires to the embodiment of the shadow self, as described by Carl Jung. We discuss how the vampire serves as a metaphor for our innermost fears, desires, and the eternal struggle between our civilized selves and our primal instincts, from myth to metaphor. As we conclude this chapter and our journey, we reflect on the transformation of the vampire from a creature of myth to a powerful cultural metaphor. We consider how the vampire myth, while rooted in fear and superstition, has evolved into a rich narrative tool that continues to challenge, fascinate, and illuminate the human condition. The vampire, once a feared predator lurking in the shadows, has become a mirror reflecting our deepest anxieties, our quest for immortality, and our attempt to understand the unknown in the other. As our journey through the shadowed realms of vampire allure comes to an end, we find ourselves standing at the crossroads of myth and reality, of fear and fascination. This thesis has been an odyssey through time and space, exploring the vampire myth's deep roots in history, its rich tapestry across cultures, its portrayal through key historical figures, its reinterpretation in the hands of Bram Stoker, and finally, its demystification through the lenses of science and psychology. Reflection on the vampire as a cultural mirror. We have seen how the vampire myth reflects the fears, desires, and moral dilemmas of society. From the bloodthirsty legends of ancient civilizations to the sophisticated Count of Victorian literature, the vampire has evolved, mirroring the changing values, anxieties, and technological advancements of humanity. The vampire myth in the modern world. In our contemporary world, the vampire continues to evolve, embodying the paradoxes of modern society. In a world increasingly defined by science and rational thought, the vampire myth persists, a testament to our enduring fascination with the unknown, the supernatural, and the immortal. The vampire's transition from a feared predator to a complex, often sympathetic character in modern media reflects our society's evolving attitudes towards the other, the outsider, the marginalized. Future directions in vampire studies. As we close the pages of this thesis, we recognize that the study of vampire lore is far from over. The vampire myth, rich in symbolism and meaning, continues to offer fertile ground for exploration in various disciplines, from cultural studies to psychology, from literature to media studies. The vampire's enduring legacy invites future scholars to continue this journey, to uncover new layers of meaning, and to explore how this ancient myth continues to evolve and resonate with each generation. In the twilight of our exploration, we come to understand that the vampire is more than just a creature of the night. It is a mirror reflecting our deepest fears, our most profound questions, and our eternal quest for understanding. The vampire myth, woven into the fabric of human history, remains an integral part of our cultural narrative, a dark but illuminating tale that continues to captivate, terrify, and enlighten.